Spinning tales, no truth to tell. Lying lips like a prison cell. Judges blind, caseworkers fall. Stealing families, no justice at all. Gunning for justice, screaming loud. Tear through lies, break the shroud. For the kids, the broken homes, we won't stop till the truth is known. One man stands, fire in his heart. Gunner fights, tears the dark apart. CPS deep in the corruption game. He lights the match, sets it aflame. Gunning for justice, screaming loud. Tear through lies, break the shroud. For the kids, the broken homes, we won't stop till the truth is known. Family shattered, tears on the ground. Echoes of voices in silence drowned. We are the storm, we are the fight. Through the shadow, we'll bring the light. Gunning for justice, screaming loud. Tear through lies, break the shroud. For the kids, the broken homes, we won't stop till the truth is known.
Hey look, this for every mama got her baby snatched on some bogus shit. For every pops they locked out the crib like he ain't blood. CPS, y'all been eating off pain for too long. We know what you on, but now it's war, this gunning foe, CPS. Kick doors, no warrants, they taking our seeds. Say it's neglect, but they planting they greed. Feds in they pocket, judge got a fee. Run it like a business, adoption spree. Contracts overseas, got partners in France. But shorty from Shy, he ain't get a chance. Mama work 2 jobs, daddy do right, but they still snatch his baby in the middle of the night. Fuck CPS, they ain't saving shit. Just a system full of snakes getting rich off kids. We see through the cap, we done taken the hit. Now it's Suffer Davis popping and we loaded the clip. Gunna got the case, now we in that fight. Taking this to SCOTUS, shining that light. They ruined good homes, now we flipping that script. Time to bring them back, time to empty the clip. They labeled us monsters, called us unfit, but it's they paperwork dirty, all of it forged and flipped. How the fuck they selling babies to a bidder overseas? Then tell the fam you unworthy. Man, please, we got mamas in pain, daddies in tears. They breaking our hearts, been doing it for years. Now we riding with Gunner, and we got the proof. Sworn under oath, now it's time for truth. Trump got the team and the pen in his hand. He said bring them home, now that's the plan. You feds been hiding, but it's over now. We moving like an army, and we ain't bowing down. Fuck CPS, they ain't saving shit. Just a system full of snakes getting rich off kids. We see through the cap, we done taken the hit. Now it's Suffer Davis popping and we loaded the clip. Gunna got the case, homes, now we in that fight. Taking this to SCOTUS, shining that light. They ruin good homes, now we flipping that script. Time to bring them back, time to empty the clip. They ain't gods, they ain't law, they just people, corrupt people. And when the people rise, ain't no system safe. The Chi-Town, it's the movement. We gunning for CPS, and we coming heavy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wait.
Well, who are we going to piss off today? Well, I'll tell you what, folks, it's been an interesting week. So much going on, not only in our case, but across the country. As you guys know, probably, or if you followed last week, we filed our appeal in the Tennessee State Court of Appeals that shows mass injustice, exposing the mass corruption in Blount County, Tennessee, in my personal case, giving justification and justification within this appeal that due process was not followed in the ability to cross-examine witnesses, and the rules of evidence were not followed. This is huge. But it not only happened once, because if you guys have watched previous shows, it happened while we were in family court, and then we did an appeal, and the same thing happened, very similar, in civil court, where the civil court judge, the attorney that I had at the time, good friend of mine, actually brought it up to the judge's attention, whether or not they were going to be able to cross-examine. And you guys will have to forgive me, for some reason, the chat thing, I can't communicate with you guys on the chat here. For some reason, it's jacked up, but I can see your comments. I just can't interact with you on the comments over there. Just FYI for tonight. But the attorney actually brought it up to the judge. Will I be able to do this? And the judge turns around and says, if you wanted the person to cross-examine the person and cross-examine the person, you should have put them on your witness list. Well, that's not the way the code, Tennessee Code annotated 24-7-123 reads. The specific terminology in there is cross-examination. That means it's supposed to be provided by the other side, and I'm to cross-examine. But also in the rules of the court, it changes how the questioning happens. In other words, when you're a witness, you're limited to doing, there are certain rules of the court that you're allowed to do certain things. Cross-examination, they're more open. There's more freedom with cross-examination. So not only was this judge trying to take and limit the quality of the questioning, but eliminated it completely. And then on top of it, while that conversation's going on with my wife, Sharon, and she says hello, and she's getting ready to handle some business right now with some massive stuff with the kidnappers up in Kentucky that assumed they had jurisdiction, which we'll deal with that here in a minute. But the actual judge turned, the GAL that's supposed to be the protector of the kids, right? The ones that's supposed to watch out for the kids, that we all know doesn't. And in our example, in our experience with this too, they didn't stand up for the kids' constitutional rights. They didn't follow and hold everybody to this for due process and to make sure this was done. No, this GAL tells my wife, and in the presence of her attorney, don't you dare bring those kids in the courtroom. Now, previous instructions by the former magistrate, which is the same GAL under the family law case, never even met the child, never even met the family, and still went into the courtroom to represent them, showing the great bias of this GAL to side on the thing of CPS, corruption. Once again, connected, your buddy system, good old boy system. Then they take and turn around and tell her, don't do this. But the previous magistrate told them, you must follow the instructions of the GAL or have your children removed. It was a threat. Follow, and it was an instruction too. Follow it. GAL says, don't bring them in. If I bring them in, I'm going to lose them. Even though the rules of evidence turn around and say, I'm supposed to have the kids here. I was instructed otherwise. Now, get to the good part. Guys, I don't know if you guys catch my good buddy Henry, and he wasn't able to be here tonight. He was on last week, and forgive the stain on my shirt. It's been crazy today. That talks about American with Disabilities Act and how this is so important. That the courts are not supposed to assume that you have no disability. They're supposed to come up to you and offer you, do you have disabilities? If so, how can we accommodate you? Because if we don't, how can you get a fair trial? Well, with the American Disability Act, and a lot of you guys need to file on this stuff with the ADA, and Henry's got some great resources, but a lot of this is going on. It makes everything that's happened from up to that point backwards even. No ADA compliance. Therefore, everything's null and void because that activates, and you have to go to their compliance. They have to have a compliance officer. A compliance officer that's supposed to meet with you. The court is supposed to come to you and make it available. In other words, set it on, if you would, the courtroom table and have a button with right here. If you need ADA, it's right here. And it's never given in these cases. And you guys could get your kids back. Matter of fact, you could file an appeal based on ADA and overturn your case because that's federal law. And they must. Congress passed this. It's enough to file that ADA, no ADA was given. I was never given the opportunity. Hey, I've got issues with light. In certain cases, like my wife's case, they do the Kentucky courtroom the way she described it as the judge sits up really high and all the lights on the judge showing her authority, but the rest of the courtroom is dimly lit where you can't even read a piece of paper. That's light manipulation. Now, how can I say that? Because I have training and certification as a lighting specialist all the way back since the beginning of LED technology. And we're going to talk about this tonight. How the courts and everything else uses light manipulation is one of the subjects we're going to talk about. So we're talking about how they use the light. I got a sneeze coming. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Tickle. It's fall weather, guys. It's the colds are coming. The allergies are coming. And no, you do not have to be on disability. You can have a hearing problem. You can have a vision to where if I'm not able to see the documents like she says in the courtroom in Kentucky, you can't even read the document sitting where they have you sitting if they pass you something. That doesn't work. You can't hear very well. Hey, I can't hear. I'm half deaf. Well, they're required to pay somebody, a subcontractor, come in and do real time printing on the bottom of the screen and everything else. They're required to provide this. If they don't have it or it's never offered, see, the burden is on the state, not you to put your hand up. The concept is one, for doing those things and stuff like that, you have to go through an evaluation. If you never had an evaluation for ADA, everything's null and void. It's a due process violation. You want to know how to get your cases into federal court? Just file it under the ADA. Go watch what Henry's got. Get the information Henry's got. Huge. You got special needs kids? Your kids were questioned by forensic interviewers and everything else. Where was their compliance officer? Null and void. Guys, you can catch them with their pants down left and right, but now we're finding out the information and we're giving it to you guys so you know how to fight this stuff, where to file, how to file. Now, if a lot of you guys too, with the, this Kentucky thing and everything that's going on, they didn't even have jurisdiction. You got to understand they were trying to claim in our particular case this Kentucky judge says, oh, we have jurisdiction. They've lived here for so long. No, the original case is back and remanded back to the original state and when it's done. If I violated something, that's only for new cases. So you got to watch states taking jurisdiction on stuff that they don't even have. Well, how do I do that? If the judge says you have jurisdiction and you say, nope, this case comes out of here, there's no transfer of jurisdiction paperwork. Even then you can't because of state sovereignty. So then you file, we got a jurisdictional issue. You can't adjudicate. So now the state of Kentucky is going to be looking at, including the CPS workers and everybody else, federal kidnapping charges. We're not playing, folks. And listen, I've talked to some people today even, and they said, well, I went to the FBI. I did this. I did that. I went to my sheriff's office and nobody helped me with this, this, and that. Guys, you're fighting the wrong way. And I hate to tell you that. But we're going to tell you how to fight. And we're going to educate you, which is part of our platform here. And it's this really, really simple. You don't go to the lowest people, you go to the highest. And as they say, let the shit run downhill. File with your state attorney general and the U.S. attorney general, and then they delegate it to what they have to get the job done. And they will make sure an investigation happens. But how you file those complaints is very, very, very important. Okay? Start at the top, let it go down. And I'm watching you guys through here, and we're going to deal with the lighting thing here too. But let's get through this part here of where to file for your criminal complaints and stuff. 1, name the person. 2, articulate the code they broke. Look up at your state codes, criminal codes. And then give a brief explanation of how they broke that code in your purview. Same thing with federal. Here's the code they violated. This is how they broke the code. Here's a description. Then you give supporting evidence. So if you need to cite, see Exhibit A, which is this is how they did it. When you can articulate it, now you know what you're talking about. Now you're communicating the same way that they read this. Why? Because they're conditioned to look at things a very specific way. Starting as, and once again, this is where they've conditioned you the wrong way. If I want to file a complaint here locally of this, and that, I'm going to fill out a police report. No, that's having somebody else do it for you, because when you use those particular things like that, or those type of complaints and reports and everything else, you don't do that. Because why? It's a state matter. Okay. Versus a local matter. But they've got you dependent on and conditioned in the mind to run to the police and have them fill out the paperwork and let them do the research and everything else. They're lazy. They won't do it. Start at the top and do your homework and articulate it and do the work for them. Why? Because when you've done the work for them, you can actually give them enough information and enough evidence to convene a grand jury. But all they have to do then is verify the information. You've done the work for them. That's how lazy they are. And it's sad to say. I hate to say it, but that's exactly what it is. And it's sad to say. But once again, it shows you the difference between foot soldiers and the commanders, the higher ranking people. Go to the highest rank. And then they will delegate it. And if you've got a complaint against like the local DA, like for an example, when this goes for criminal charges and it's put on for the state and everything else, you can't use the local DA here. Why? Because I already went to him and he buried evidence. His office did. Now there's a conflict of interest. That means what? Special investigators will have to be have to be appointed by the state's attorney's office to do an investigation independently, so there's no bias. See, that's huge. Now, going back to lighting manipulation, I was certified in high efficiency lighting technology. HID, high intensity discharge, LED products, so on and so forth. So what I did, because I was on board with all of that in the very early stages, I actually worked with manufacturers as what was needed to meet the NEC code and everything else, and how to design these things. And even some of the products they designed, they were just things looking on how their engineers were saying, I can build it, but I don't know nothing about code. That's where I came in, and a lot of other people came in. I was one of the first 5 people in the whole United States to be certified in this. So when we talk about lighting manipulation, the courtrooms, especially in Kentucky, when she told me what was going on, that the judge was all lit up and up on stage, and then the whole courtroom was dark and you couldn't even read a document, it's called lighting manipulation. They're trying to create a disability that I can't read because they're manipulating the courts. They don't want you to read the documents. That's a due process violation, guys, whether you know it or not, or you can see it. That's exactly what it is. Because that's the difference between that and a federal. If you go into a federal courtroom, it's very, very well lit, where everybody can see. Now, now you're going to want, excuse me. Sorry, allergies are killing me. Who else uses lighting manipulation? That's right, your local retailer. One of the biggest retailers in the world, Walmart. Especially around Christmas time. They have a lighting control board back there. And how do you know this? I've worked in Walmarts. I used to work across the country going in and out of Walmarts, Lowe's, several other businesses, major labels, this and that. And they actually have a whole report. And this is based off of marketing. If you'll notice during Christmas time, or what they call the end of the aisles are called the end caps. Those aisleways and stuff like that are lit up even more. There's more lighting in the aisles in the main ways than there is on just the aisles, because that's just product on the shelf. And companies pay extra money for marketing to put this stuff in highly lit areas. Where do you see this mainly happen? Christmas. The main aisleways, and most of you guys don't look up. I'm a guy that looks up. Electrician, it's just a force of habit, as well as a lighting specialist. You look up, you'll notice the lights are just a little bit brighter. At the same time, some of these companies have even places have put in energy saving where they have skylights in, and they will actually dim or cut out some of the lights. The lights are not out. They've brought them down, one, to save money. But you'll notice where the light still stays on, they have a program from corporate that remotes in, looks at this, and even the camera system to brighten up the lighting, so you'll pay special attention. This can be used as a form of manipulation in retail, as well as it can be used as a form of manipulation in the courtroom, in CPS offices, in negotiation offices, and title offices, and several other things. If you have an issue to where you're in a room and it's dimly lit, it's a red flag for me. Why? There's something you don't want me to see. I want you to make it as bright as it is outside during the middle time of day. Now that goes into, and I know this is more of an electrical thing, but it pertains to CPS. It pertains to the courts. And it goes into LED. LED was brought in, and it's measured on, you'll see yellow light, kind of white light, soft white, they used to call it, bright white, and then daylight. Well, they use a scale called Kelvin. It's called the Kelvin scale. And the Kelvin is basically, as it comes off, if any of you guys have ever worked in steel mills, aluminum's very similar, a lot of the metals, this and that, is the color at a certain temperature. So if steel, give you an example of steel, as you get it hot, you'll notice it goes from yellow, and then it slowly starts to get whiter, whiter, and whiter till it turns blue. Now, lighting manipulation you'll also see in diamond stores. Why? They go for the bluer hues because it makes the diamonds get the sparkle. and it grabs your attention and goes, buy me, buy me, buy me. And the same thing is used in our courtrooms, especially in this courtroom that we're talking about. When I hear people describe, I couldn't read the documents or it was dimly read. It's done on purpose. So they have paid somebody, either somebody's just completely ignorant and you've got backwards lighting, or they've brought in a manipulation specialist to stack the advantage in the court with lighting manipulation. Matter of fact, it's one of the things we're going to file another lawsuit on. Why? Because it's called manipulation. You're not supposed to be manipulating anybody in a courtroom. We're all supposed to be on equal grounds. But because of what I do, there's going to be another lawsuit on this against courtrooms. Matter of fact, we'll eventually watch out. And if you follow us on Facebook, go back and watch when that comes up. Hey, anybody that's been into a dimly lit courtroom and the judge has been lit up like crazy, please send me your, eventually I'll say, hey, send me your affidavit on this. Why? Because we're doing another lawsuit, pro se, and we're going to give examples nationally of how these courtrooms are manipulating people. Because it's giving the courts and everybody else an unfair advantage. Now, when we talked about going back to the seal with the different colors, it's measured in Kelvin, right? So before they had the labels to them, because everybody used to be the old twist or the old screw-in bulbs, you used to get, the incandescents. It was based off of wattage or energy consumption. So comparison to a 60 watt to 100 watt, well, the 100 watt was much brighter, right? LED was done in Kelvin temperature, and a lot of these courtrooms and everything else are going to Kelvin temperature, okay? And then they're going to say, hey, I want to just make sure that, the judge is really shining up so everybody can see the judge and all of the attention is brought to the judge subconsciously. There's literally reports on this. There's been mass studies done on this. You don't believe me? Go look it up yourself. Lighting manipulation. And once again, it goes through this. Now in LED, it's done by Kelvin temperature, the same as steel. Remember the yellow, the brighter the color, the whiter it gets, and then it turns blue. That's the same. That's why they measured in that, because they based it off of steel. When steel was getting hot and heating up. So as it goes down a lower Kelvin temperature, we'll say 4,800 Kelvin is a nice yellow, softer color, this and that. You go up a little bit more, 4,200 Kelvin. Then you go to 4,500 Kelvin. Then you go to 48 Kelvin. These are your different white colors. Then you go to 5,000. Well, 5,000 is a bright white color. It's very visible. It's the closest you can get to sunlight, because true sunlight is 5250 Kelvin temperature is natural sunlight. It's the equivalent. Okay. That's where you want to be in all these courtrooms, and everything is like you're outside, middle of the day, noontime, when the sun is highest, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, when it's at its highest, you can see the best. It's what our eyes are naturally conditioned to do. You get closer to 6,000, the light turns blue. If you go into jewelry stores and you look up, and those lights look a little goofy and they look a little blue, that's what they're doing, is they're manipulating the light in the courtroom, because it kind of hurt. If you look at the blue one, it kind of hurts your eyes a little bit too, because it's too much and you kind of glance at it. But when it refracts or bounces off those diamonds, they sparkle as you walk past the diamond cage. It's a trick. It's a manipulation, but they're not going to tell you that. And they do the same thing in these courtrooms. Let me put something dimly lit in the audience section. And listen, churches do the same damn thing. Religious organizations, you ever notice that? Let's dim the lights in the audience. And it's nice and soft when they bring the lights up. But what do you notice about the stage? It's bright white. It's intense. It's got your attention. The same people that design those things for lighting on stages and concerts and churches and everything else, the same damn thing is happening in the courtroom. Now, if you've been following me on Facebook, which some of you take and do, there's been some backlash. Okay. Recently, we have made it public that there has been a profile. There's actually been several, and I've deleted several people that were following me, that some evidence that has, been brought to my attention that certain people, and not the particular one, let me be clear, that was posted about something about them, and if you're following me, you'll understand, that turns around at their profiles. There was profiles that were posting things that were major red flags, let alone not just their posts, but comments on other posts. Huge red flags. Then, as soon as I brought that up to other people I knew that were in the area or worked around these people, I did my research before I said anything. Hey, red flag. Other people that had worked with these people, red flag. No, red flag. They work for CPS. Oh, huge red flag. Hey, they worked with government assistance stuff, this and that. Huge red flag. Why? Because we already know on my show, as well as other shows and other people that have revealed, CPS and other organizations pay people to surf and look for advocates for people speaking out against CPS, all sorts of things. They're actually using your tax dollars against you to find people like myself or this show or other shows that are out there calling out CPS for what they're doing, and basically troll them and really manipulate people, or even go behind their backs and talk about them. And some of these things, and most of y'all don't turn around and turn around. Well, how do you, this and that? Listen, guys, I'm not playing that. We already know we're on watch list. We already know that they're taking and watching us for government. This, that. Why? Because our case is breaking wide open, and we have a real shot, other than any other movement before us, to really do some massive damage against CPS. Because once they get that appeal back, and we know which way it's going, there's no way it can't. Trust me, there's no way they can't. Everybody says, how do you know? Trust me. I've had everybody look at it that I know and trust, and it's not opinionated. I want the truth out of them. It's going to be overturned, and it's going to be so huge, because then the state is going to admit that the people that represented the state have committed crimes. And it's not an isolated incident. Why? Because we've already made the connection in our federal filing that they're doing what they were trained to do and what they were paid to do. Our case, in our federal case, if you guys don't know much about it, and once again, we've brought it out several times, and it was one of the first things that we filed, goes after their policies and procedures, that they're actually using state and federal tax money, which is treason and sedition, to train state employees and subcontractors to violate your constitutional rights. That's huge. Good job, John. I'm glad you got your Gmail back. And guys, this, a lot of people you miss the little things. No ADA compliance. That's automatic federal violation. It's a due process violation. It means the court manipulated. Therefore, it's null and void. Hey, the lighting was bad. I couldn't this, I couldn't that. And here's the thing. All you have to do is say, I never met with a compliance officer. I was never evaluated. They just threw me into court. You got it right there. You can overturn and appeal your case just over ADA and get your kids back and overturn your case no matter what it is. I wasn't given any ADA. Case overturned. Matter of fact, I'm going to remand this case over to federal. It's an automatic right into federal court. But go check out Henry's show that's on Saturday night on the Breaking News Network, CPS Breaking News Network on YouTube, equal and the same. That's on 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Check that out and connect with Henry, man. There's and people that deal with some of this ADA. Henry's dug really deep for you guys, man. Listen, and here's the reason why. He didn't have a choice. Why? Because he has a special needs son. He had to protect his son. So what better person to take and do that that's really dug in this to make sure and let alone a father or a mother to turn around, but a father like Henry is to protect his son, to make sure his son is getting equal treatment in consideration of his disabilities. And here's the other thing. You don't have to prove your disabilities. You can simply say the words, I can't hear and I can't see. That's what the evaluation's for. Can you this and that? Can we go into this courtroom where you're going to be? Can you see and read that? No, I can't. Let's get you some accommodations till you're comfortable. You mean my comfort's part of my hearing? Absolutely. And I know Harry was on with us last week, and you guys got to talk to him and see him, and we had several conversations along with Becca um, that was here. But listen, guys, you guys have got to plug into some of this stuff because it's pivotal in your cases, even if your case is like, because ADA is retroactive, even if it's 5, 10 years old. Get with Henry, file those things, start getting your kids home. Hey, nullify the case. Hey, the family court didn't provide jack to me. I didn't understand. I have a learning disability. I couldn't see. That's a disability. I couldn't hear. That's a disability. Doesn't mean you're completely deaf. That's not just for people. It's for any little bit of hearing or anything else with that. Any little bit. I can't read. If I'm passed a court document to look over, I can't read it. I can't understand it. It's not, we'll look at this later. No, I'm supposed to be able to be in the courtroom and read these things. And if they don't, you can't. And I think that's the big thing. And I know everybody's been busy and everything's been crazy as can be for everybody this past week. But at the same time, guys, watch who you're following. Look them up. Do your research on these people, where they're going, what they're doing, or it's just a bunch of rhetoric. Because listen, man, and I've had this conversation with many people, hero syndrome. What would you do if CPS was abolished and it was no more? Especially with a lot of these advocates, they wouldn't know what to do. Because their whole life revolves around this, and it makes them feel good. That's hero complex. I could care less. I would go about my life and never think of it. If CPS was abolished, I'd move on and don't care. I'm doing this because I'm doing it. Why? Because of what happened to me, and to make sure it doesn't happen to my children, my grandchildren in the future, or anything else that takes and goes on. I'm trying to ensure what's good for me and my family. At the same time, it benefits all of you. So it's a win-win for everybody. And that's the concept we've got to have, not me. Stop and listen. Get some education. Learn about people. Watch your advocates of who you're following. Watch it. And look at Amy's right there. It's back there. Look at those cooler tones if you want that lighting manipulation thing. Listen, man, it's a real damn thing. This is how they're using this stuff against you, all the way down to the lighting, the temperature, the whole 9 yards. I'm not comfortable. I'm freezing in here. Turn it up. Well, we're not going to do that for you. Under ADA, yes, because my comfort is important. I'm the one that's here. I'm the one that's the state employees and actors and everything. They're paid to be there. I'm not. You get it? It falls with me. We, the people, are the ones protected, not the government officials, nor the judge or the magistrate. Hey, it's too cold in here to have a hearing. Well, we're still going to have it today, even though the heater's broke, or, oh, it's too hot and we don't have air conditioning. This is why I have health issues. I can't come into the courtroom right there, Judge. Sorry. ADA violation, null and void. But coming together and sifting everybody and this and that when you come through, it's going to cause a lot. And there's other things you got to do your own research. And at the same time, we can agree to disagree. There's the beautiful thing. And once again, I didn't attack an individual. I attacked a social media profile. And everybody takes it personal. And if you can't differentiate the difference between someone's profile versus a person, and let alone, let me say this, and to be very, 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 very clear. When you say, I know this person, I've known this person for a long time, I'm this, and that, and no way this person would do this and that. Well, great. What's the name of their dog? What's the name of their cat? Have you been over to their house for dinner? Have they been invited into your home and you've been to their home? And 90% of the time, they're going to say no. That's not a personal connection. That's not a real connection. That's not a I know that person. Sorry. That's the difference between living in a virtual world, it's not real, versus a world. I can tell you people that have been over to my house that I trust and this, and that, and has sat at my table, sat on my back porch, done this or done that. Them, I can say I know them. I know them personally. I know that person's wife. I know that person's husband. I know their kids. I know their kids' likes and dislikes. I know the sports their kids play and everything. That's knowing somebody personally. And the same people that came up against of doing all these other things, you know what they did? And I'm already seeing it, and I'm laughing my ass off. They're gaslighting the shit out of everybody and talking smack about me, and let them talk because I don't care, because you don't know these people. And now you're back doing what exactly I know you're going to do, is gaslight and manipulate others. And your true color comes out. Boom, you've been exposed. I'm not going to take and mention names. Go find out for yourself and evaluate those people for yourselves. Anybody that's willing to turn their back when you say, hey, man, I've got issues and I've seen personal evidence or da 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 against these people, and this is my opinion, I'm entitled to my opinion. But when you're attacked for your opinion, let alone I left the door open saying, hey, if this is not true and you're such a good person to this person, why don't you facilitate to get them to research and see if they have been hacked, or somebody has had access to their social media and doing something on behalf of them, their representation of social media, and whether or not it's true, and show me, oh no, I was hacked and that wasn't me and I found it and I closed it. Why? Because that's representing yourself going forward. Those things represent you. They are not you, who you are as a person. There's a huge difference. And some people can't differentiate because they don't live in a real world. They only survive in the virtual world known as the internet. It's not real. It's not tangible. You can't touch it. We can see it, but you can't touch it. You can't touch the internet. It's not a real thing. It exists through all these other things, but it's not part of our tangible world. We have to learn to differentiate. And this is the problem with the birth of some of the technologies, is separating those two within our psyche of one is one. And people get confused on that. This is what's caused psychological breaks from seeing stuff on the internet and thinking everything out there is real and tangible, to where people have lost their damn minds and committing mass shootings, suicide, all these other things and stuff. It's crazy. I mean, it's absolutely nuts. Listen, Amy, by the time that's done, she won't be in Kentucky. She'll be back here in Tennessee. So don't worry about that, because she's coming home and so are the kids. Because that means the order is quashed, void ab initio, as though it never existed. And the state is going to admit they did wrong with the appeal, because there was so much overwhelming evidence. It's not. Listen, Kayla, nonprofits and for-profits and all sorts of other stuff, and those contracts, those are NGOs, as you've heard that term lately in a lot of talks of money going to NGOs. NGOs is non-government organizations. They're nonprofits, they're for-profits, they're this and that, and they give money to them to help support. Guys, let me tell you something about it, and this is my opinion as we go forward. We don't need SNAP, and you know what? We sure as hell don't need Section 8, and here is why. Because if we were truly family-based and community-based people, which we're supposed to be in this country, we wouldn't have people that went without. We would take care of our own, and our country used to have that till the government came in and said, we can do it better. It's not their responsibility. That responsibility is always lied with you and I. I've practiced it all my life. When I knew families that I knew that were struggling, um, they got meals. They sat at my table, not somewhere cold and away from me and this and that. My table, my door was open. Children that didn't have this or that, when my kids were in a couple different sports, especially soccer or AYSO. Um, at the time, my wife did coach one season. My ex-wife, I should say, coached one season, but I was a referee for quite a few years because there was such a need, and the director of the program reached out to me because I had played myself as well as many other sports. Um, but when we saw kids in need or families in need, we actually reached out and go, hey, is there something you could do? Or, hey, man, let's invite you over for dinner, especially if they were on the same team as my daughter or my daughters at the time. Hey, man, do you need something? Is there something I can do? You know, we didn't make them feel fucking weird about it or bad about it. And they loved the fact that it was like that. There were kids that were outcast and their family life was shit. My kids would bring them over all the time. Dad, their family's just kind of this. Well, have them over for dinner. Go ahead, they can stay and this or that. And then then you could take an invest. No, that's called community, guys. We've lost something as Americans that is very pivotal to our very existence: family and community. Not these manipulative characters. Man, you didn't used to have people turn around. The Baptists, the Catholics, the Methodists, they all used to get along. And now they're fighting. Hell, they'll fight amongst themselves. And that's where you'll see churches divide. Left and right arguments because we can't see eye to eye. Guys, we got to get past that shit, man. That's why they've got our kids. That's why they're destroying our families, because we've allowed them to. Because communities didn't come together. You know why? Because if you realize a government organization or somebody came in from whatever thing and this and that and kidnapped, back in the day or anything else, you didn't have, well, this abuse is bad, and this abuse is bad, and, child abuse, spousal abuse, this, that. You know what happened? Back in the day, I'm going to tell you some old school. I'm going to give you some history. You didn't have to deal with it. We didn't have to call the cops except for to come pick them up. Because a night in jail ain't going to do nothing about it. Somebody laid hands on their, somebody's sister, brother, this, that. They got the shit beat out of them. And they didn't talk. They took their ass whippings and they straightened up. If they got drunk and got violent, they got dealt with. You laid a hand on your kids or anything else, it was just as simple. If I'm not saying anymore because I'm so mad I'm going to kill you, don't you ever touch that kid again. And if anything, that kid can come stay with me. See, that's the same thing that happened in my case. My stepfather was extremely abusive, and my grandfather stepped in. Family stepped in. No more. Go get your shit and move in here. We're not dealing with this anymore. I'm not having it. Now he's under my roof, my protection. Don't you ever do it again. Now you and I got a problem. But we don't see that anymore because our families have been destroyed by the government. Why? Because they believe our children and you and I are property of the state. Even though your own state's constitution, I know it's definitely in Tennessee, and I've looked at the other states, but definitely it says people are not property. Then why do you treat them as that? Why do the courts treat them as that? We're living human beings. Children are not property. And nobody has a right to tell me how to raise my children under the First Amendment because of my freedom of what? Religion. And that's your belief system. I'm not breaking any laws, but they'll put you through parenting classes. They'll put you through this. They'll put you through that. Don't do this. I already do that. I've done that the entire time. Matter of fact, one of the biggest rules I have with disciplining my children is never disciplining them when you're angry. What are you going to do? But at the same time, yeah, they'd have their whoopings and everything else that would take a turn around. And at the time it was done, it was explained to them, do you know why you got whooped? You could have seriously hurt somebody, including yourself. That's dangerous. But once again, the punishment fits the crime. That was the other part. Now people say, I don't believe in capital punishment. I just talk to the children, this and that. listen, man, I'm glad maybe that works for you, but at the same time, one fact that won't change: you put your hand to a hot stove, you're gonna burn it, and it's gonna blister the skin and the entire thing. It's the same no matter who you are. There are certain consequences that have inalienable definitions of consequences that you're not going to get away from. That's what you got to teach your children. There are some things out there. There's no, oops, I made a mistake. That doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And I get a lot of you guys, and a lot of you guys that are taking and watching and understanding. Like I said, you got your own belief system, and I respect that. You raise your children your way, okay? But remember too, you're raising your children. Part of raising your children is raising your children to live in a world without you. That they have the skill sets, the knowledge, and everything else, and the problem-solving skills to go on beyond you when you're not here and solve those problems as they come into them. And you got a lot of others, that'll always be my baby. That'll happen. Bad thinking, man. That's called stinking thinking. Why? Because eventually they're going to become adults. And one day you're going to be gone. And every time, not just once, not just twice, every single time I've seen that enacted, when that parent passes, the child has a mental breakdown and loses it as an adult, and will abandon all sorts. They're done. They're just broken that bad because they don't know what to do without that guidance or that person there. Why? Because it's manipulation. You're not given the skill sets to walk as an adult and as a parent. That's our job. But that's not being done. Then the government comes in and says, oh, we can do better, but we're going to put you into a system. We're going to make sure that once you're in that system, your whole family is going to be in that system, so we can come after you again and again. That's called repeat business, man. They go out there shopping for this shit. And now with this whole thing of we don't have to take and tell you who fucking reported. If there's been a fucking crime, you should have enough balls, whatever it may be, to sign your name on the ink. Oh, hell yeah, I watched them do that. That's called a crime. That's the only reason we're supposed to be in any courts for child abuse or neglect or anything else. Those are criminal codes and should be in a criminal courtroom with the criminal standard to meet. But the state said, nope, we'll lower all of that and we'll put you into the civil courts and take advantage of you. Why? Because the threshold is so much easier to get over, and let alone we're going to allow this, we're going to allow this. We're going to throw out the rules of civil procedure and family court, and we're going to run it the way we want, and they're just off the hook. And you've even got judges like this judge up in Kentucky turn around how she had voiced her opinions on homeschooling before she even adjudicated. You cannot bring your politics into the courtroom and sit on that bench. It's a violation of your oath. And she got caught. And she's going to be going to jail for it. Let alone assuming jurisdiction on something she never had jurisdiction on in our particular case. The reason I tell you a lot of things in our particular case and this and that and make the dot connections for you, because a lot of people, and you'll see this in the comments on a lot of shows, to turn around and go, oh, hell, that happened to me too. Yeah, it did. And the same thing applies. You just have to follow. It may not be the same code or anything else as the state I live in, but I definitely know that there's a code in your state that says that ain't right. So when you feel it ain't right to your core, you just know it ain't right. You got to dig this stuff up. And if you fight in a state level, they're going to be more concerned because they can't adjudicate on constitutional issues other than dismissals. They're supposed to know what fruit from a poisonous tree is. They're supposed to identify this person has committed a crime. But unless it's on the court record, you've done this and that, and you've pursued the fact that violation of Constitution, I've pressed criminal charges. I filed a federal case against you. The lower court can't do anything then. But you missed those points, and you weren't even informed, a lot of you that had attorneys. You know what? The right way we should do this If they entered the home with no warrant and they ask questions on this, this, and that, we need to be filing criminal charges in the federal court. We need to make the state aware. We need to do all this, and you need to decide all this stuff. And then we need to tie this up in a criminal case. Well, can it move forward? No, because the evidence of everything that it has had before is fruit from a poisonous tree. So anything that person has touched is now non-admissible in any courtroom. And you pay somebody such as an attorney or a lawyer, and you figure they know this stuff. And a lot of them don't, because they're not taught it, because it disrupts the flow of money and system, which is why right now the number one job to go out there is family law attorneys, why there's such a huge need. And it's all about making money. It's not protecting families. It's an ethics violation, just even having them take and do half the stuff they do. Yeah, I'll tell you the truth, 90% of them would probably end up with ineffective counsel due to the ignorance. Once you actually get educated on this stuff, you turn around. How did you not know this? How did my attorney not know this? How come my attorney didn't file with this, that? Why? Because with their job, they go into the same courtroom or courtrooms within different counties, depends on what areas they decide to take on the cases, to see the same judges, the same attorneys from CPS, the same this, and that. And they have to work in this environment. If not, it creates what do you call a hostile working environment. And they don't want to do that. And they don't want a bad name in there. Why? Because if the judge sees me, I'm going to have to work twice as hard. And this, that, why? Because I'm not working with the courts. I'm working against the courts. I've heard attorneys say this. But I'm paying you to do what? Fill in with the knowledge and experience to stand up for my rights and my family, or whatever it may be, whatever case it is. And they just don't care because it's just a job to them. You guys realize that the hardest thing to overcome is somebody fighting for their home and their homeland. We knew that in this country. Matter of fact, England got pissed at us as Americans because you don't fight properly on the battlefield and you stand out there like every other soldiers. No, we fought like the Indians did. Not Indians, Native Americans, like the tribes did. I'm using the word colonist word with that so everybody understands that I've used all the words to make everybody happy. We fought like I'm going to mess the word up, like the tribes did, where they hid in the woods. They didn't fight fair. They fought to win. Matter of fact, you ever met a Marine? We don't fight. We don't play fair. We fight to win, whatever it takes. It doesn't matter. Matter of fact, if you took the rules of engagements off those bastards, it's over. It's over. And there's certain groups out there, they will do anything to win. Kicking, screaming, biting, this and that. It doesn't matter. I'm going to win. That's the attitude we should have for our families and our homelands and our home lives that we've lost as Americans. Why? We've become comfortable. It was exchanged with what? Sodas, internet, movies, entertainment. We've watched these industries grow to where they're multi-million and billion and trillion-dollar industries, because that's where we choose to spend our hard-earned wages and money. Yeah. And that's where you make your votes. And then those people, they take all that money and then they go lobby Congress. And they go lobby, this person, or pay this person off, or do this or do that. And they have people there. Why? For their interest, not yours. And you're the one that gave them all the damn money. Yeah. Then we find out that they were funneling money through NGOs and everything else, through businesses and other things that don't even exist, and then stealing millions of dollars and putting it in their own pocket and putting it into NGOs that everybody gets a payout, but it doesn't produce anything. Here's a contract to do this and that, and they get paid for it up front and still hasn't produced a damn thing. There's been no accountability, which is why DOGE come in and pound a ton of it and exposed it, and they're still exposing it today. I want to take and go through this stuff here. Like I said, I know you guys have been great. We've been watching the show, and I know this show's a little bit different platform. I want to show you one of the things I did find. As you guys always know, that's been the update on the case. And unfortunately, with everybody's health and things going on, we don't have a guest this evening. I was hoping to have a couple guests. People have had things going on. And you know what? Amy and I know who that is back there. Listen, man, when you get free, I can't wait to have you on the show if we haven't canceled the show and everything else because CPS is abolished, which is something we all want done. Let me share this video with you because this is going to blow your mind. This is the kind of stuff and the evil that goes on that we don't want to talk about. This is hidden. This is what our money goes to. This is what they're robbing us to do.
Example I'll share is probably the most insidious, was providing intelligence to the Mexican law enforcement that led to the arrest of a CJNG cartel-affiliated baby trafficker called La Diabla. Her whole money-making operation was centered around luring pregnant women, performing illegal C-sections, harvesting organs, and selling newborn babies. Mr. President, it's your leadership that has made all of this possible. I can tell you, in the midst of this government shutdown, our folks, like everyone around this table, are working 24/7 without pay and eager to get after this because they believe in your leadership and the mission that you have presented to them. Last example I'll share is probably the most insidious.
There it is, guys. We're doing this because we believe in it, and it ain't about the damn money. It's called people with integrity and honor. We're going to do the right thing, even though nobody's looking, even though nobody's getting paid or anything else. It's the right thing to do. Cartels that are not just doing drugs, but human trafficking, body farms, body part farms, body trafficking, parts, organ trafficking. Yeah. While others sit at home, we're just going to shut everything down. Proof's in the pudding, man. Proof's in the pudding. And all the stuff that has been done over the years, all the way since from the back as far as I am, but during the Reagan administration, our war on drugs that never stopped anything. Cocaine, fentanyl, all these other things still flow to this day. But yet things that were medicinal and things that were good and could be used and so on. So once again, coke comes from the coca plant. Poppy comes from, poppy creates heroin. They still use, the funny thing is we can't grow poppy here. This is the irony and just the pure stupidity. We pay other countries like Afghanistan to grow poppy fields that we buy their poppy off of them to make opioids for things like morphine and other drugs that have opioids in it and or refined. And other things are man-made in a factory or in a lab or anything else. But yeah, we pay other countries to grow something we can grow here as far as medicine. I just baffles me. Why are we not self-sufficient? And okay, well, it's a controlled drug. It's a bad drug. We can't. Then why are we buying it and putting it in pharmaceutical medicines then if it's that bad? Why don't we take and grow it ourselves and keep that money here? Do you know how much they make off this shit? Poppy, those other extracts from other things that are what? Natural plants. And let alone they hide this, they hide that. But here, take a pill. Big pharma, petroleum-based medicines. Now, listen, I'm not against all of them, but we need to have a balance, and we don't have a balance, which is why we saw, the pill mills go through and all that other stuff, wiping out, especially, a lot of Appalachia, because they were running pill mills, this and that, fabricated things, getting you hooked on it, destroying your families, rather than things that actually cured people. Now, that's big pharma. Now let's talk about psychology. Psychology, you realize a psychiatrist or psychologist has never healed a single person in history? Nope. Not a single person. Because 90% of the basis is teaching you how to heal yourself. Yet the biggest part of stuff with CPS is doing what? Oh, your kid's been abused. They have this, they have that. We have specialists that can give them skills to overcome this and that. We've been overcoming shit since the beginning of time and hasn't needed a single supposed qualified person to do jack shit. Don't believe me? World War I veterans, World War II veterans, Vietnam veterans. Now, I won't even go into Vietnam and all the drugs and everything that were experimented on them through government programs and everything else. MK Ultra, those are real things, experimentations. Let alone these guys came back from seeing the nastiest things, and some of them could compartmentalize and some of them couldn't. But vets used to stick together with vets and look out for each other like a sense of family, a sense of brotherhood. They don't do that anymore. Not like they used to. They used to look out for each other. Not like they used to. Let alone we're giving millions and billions and trillions of dollars to people that are not supposed to be here or entered the country legally. Once again, this is not, once again, we're an organized civilization. We're not, once again, uncharted land. All from coast to coast, north to south, it's been defined. This is not uncharted, undocumented land, first person there, and we're not, dealing with those particular. It's all been explained. We're a stabilized country. They come here because of what we've already created. Okay. But when people turn around and tell me we need to do this for this or this and this and that, and you don't do for the veterans or the veteran administrations that protect this country and give those and secure those freedoms, and they're not getting what they need, I got a big problem with that. I got a big problem with that. John, we'll have to address that sometime. If you're following me on Facebook, send me a DM, and we'll get together on that. But there's a lot of things going on, guys, in the world today. There's a lot of things going on in our case. There's a lot of stuff going on in a lot of big developments. Like I said, a lot of things are getting ready to be popped. Kentucky's about ready to hit the shit show, man. There's some filings going in this week. Boom. That's going to crush Kentucky and blow the doors and expose mass interstate, everything, crossing state lines, not following federal procedures, this, and that. And it all originated from here in Tennessee. They cross state lines and they don't have the authority to do so. That has to be a federal. They didn't do it, and they got caught with their pants down. Huge. Well, if not, John, if you look towards the end of the show, you'll see it during the closing credits and stuff like there is an email address you can take and reach out to me at gunning4cps@yahoo.com. Send me an email and we'll find a way to get together, either a Zoom call or something like that, and have some combos. Because as you guys know, I'm an international freelance journalist. So we do a lot of reporting on some other things. I've got a few other people that I've thought about reaching out to, once again, on the other side of the world to get some inside story. But once again, people in Ireland, Scotland, and everything else are absolutely going ape shit on what's happening in their countries. As a matter of fact, I'm going to start reaching out probably over the next couple of weeks to give you guys some international exposure to CPSs across the world. And it's going to blow your mind, especially what's going on. And right now, what's going on in England, wow, massive things there. France, Nepal burned down their parliament, literally, and remove their government officials violently. Guys, go read our Constitution. Go read the Declaration of Independence. Go back and look at those. You realize the power is within the people, that if we get to the point we feel that our elected and appointed officials and actors have become tyrants, not only do we have the right, we have an obligation to remove them by any means necessary and reestablish, as the Declaration of Independence specifically says, to reestablish a new form of government, and to make sure that we instill in that new form of government that what has happened never happens again. Guys, you got more power than what you need to do. But once again, We got to quit fighting, but at the same time, we got to quit sticking up for people and for people to turn around this and question some people's motives. And if you really say, in other words, if you've got something against me, let me tell you something. I welcome a good challenge. Why? Because I know you ain't got jack. But if you automatically cower and turn around and hide and go whimpering to others when you're attacked, obviously there's something wrong. That's experience that'll tell you, and everybody go, yep, old Gunner's right. Because it's true. Because you got something to hide. When you don't defend yourself and you cry to others, I'm being picked on. Nope, got you. And you just exposed yourself. Why? Because now all your little minions are going to do what? Start gaslighting, name calling, all that other stuff. That's a weak individual. Sorry. That's the truth of the real world, and those are the facts. But once again, you've been caught. And a lot of people are getting caught. Gaslighting, lying, manipulating. People are getting educated on that stuff, and we ain't going to tolerate it no more. We're holding you accountable. And don't do it. You've been caught. Just because you get caught doesn't mean, no, you're not sorry. You're sorry you got caught. Guys, keep that in mind. And we'll see you next week. Hopefully we'll have a special guest so we can get a few things going. As Amy says, let's go, Brendan. Guys, our country's changing. We're going back to the Constitution, and it hurts. But more and more is being exposed. And trust me, so CPS. It's all going to come down, and they're done. And they ain't going to know what to do. But once again, we'll survive without them. Because we don't need them. We never did. If I've committed a crime, stop interfering with the duly elected duties of the sheriff. Because that's exactly what CPS does. Interferes with something you and I elected to keep us safe and to enforce the law. And CPS, the state has manipulated them to interfere with the duties of a duly elected sheriff. You don't believe me? There's a whole book on that too that sheriffs are supposed to follow, because their obligation isn't to the state. It isn't to the government. It's to we the people in the counties they serve. Thanks again, guys. We'll catch you out next week. Check you out next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. And here we go, wrapping it up. Piss somebody off this week with some truth facts and love on the rest of them. Have a nice week.
In the United States, CPS makes upwards of $3 billion per day on trafficking and selling our children. The corruption may start with the caseworker, but goes through the judicial system, passing the governor through the Senate and into the White House. The entire system has a hand in the business known as CPS.
Our children are stolen every minute of a 24-hour day. They are being robbed of their innocence, their trust, their happiness. As parents, we are isolated and betrayed by a government we trust. States are balancing budgets on kids' lives. Only 12% of the kids taken will be reunified. Title IV funding is being riveted with fraud.
We need to stop CPS and abolish CPS.com is leading the way. Join us.
Judges grinning, deals in shadows locked. Caseworkers speaking truth they've mocked. Gunning on for justice, rage intense. Bringing kids home from this broken fence. Corruption weighs heavy, laws collapse. Kids go missing behind their maps. CPS stealing kids, no trace. Lies build walls, the truth they erase. Gunner's howl cuts through the air. He won't stop midnight, he'll get there. chains, reform transform. Gunny known for justice, rage intense, bringing kids home from this program.